Welcome to the Young Pro Show. Today we have a special guest here with us today. His name is Thoma Simpson. He's been a great friend of mine for just over a year now, over a year and a half now actually. And Thoma's seen massive success for his age, and it's not gonna stop. He's gonna keep continuing to have the success that he's been having. But Thoma, why don't you tell the viewers a little bit about yourself, where you came from, and what got you from where you are to where you were to where you are right now?
Yeah, definitely. Well, first off, I'd like to say that, and I'd like to kind of clarify the relation between me and David, because this is a very special moment. I'm very excited and very proud that David has gotten to this point here and is now starting to really harness and realize the dream and vision that he's going after, and that is to help a mass amount of people become more successful. And of course, this is a great project for being able to make that happen. David came to Ottawa about a year ago, and he just kind of showed up and didn't really have a place to sleep. But I said, "Hey, man, you can come sleep over at my house if you want." And then he was my roommate for like 5-6 months, something like that at least. And so we shared a lot of thoughts, and of course, when you live together, you get to know somebody really well. So I really got absorbed into to David's world and he into mine, and this is something that's been in the talks and in the works for quite some time now. So I'm happy that it's really coming to fruition and is actually manifesting itself in front of us.
Thanks for that, bro.
Yeah, man, for sure. So something about myself. Well, I'm from Ottawa, born and raised, and je parle français, c'est ma première langue. Pour tous les Français qui nous regardent maintenant. Salut. But I'll continue this podcast in English because, of course, I think that most of our viewers
will be in English,
either bilingual or in English.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So as I said, I'm from Ottawa, and I grew up downtown. I went to a school called De La Salle, actually, and I studied visual and media arts there. It was an art school. I mean, we did dance and music as well, but the arts is really what appealed to me a whole lot. I'm a very creative guy. So from that point there, finishing high school, I actually started working for a company called Vector Marketing. That was at the age of 17, right before I graduated, essentially. And I can attribute a lot of who I am today and my business persona and professional self to that. That was kind of like me being born into the business world at that point. So a little bit about the job. I was selling Cutco knives, and essentially started off practicing this presentation with friends that I knew, or parents of my friends from school, or friends of my parents, right, etc. And showing them these really nice knives that are very efficient and very durable. So I had a good product that I did believe in, and I actually worked there for 4 years. So the first summer kind of just went through the people that I knew, and then I started getting referrals from them, and then calling those referrals. And continuing on. And I started to realize how powerful networking could really be, because one connection could lead you to 10 connections. And out of those 10 connections, you can pick the best connection and then ask them for another 10 connections, and so on and so forth, until you find the President of the United States, or you find David over here, or whichever it is. A lot of connections have a huge influence over your life, right? But that was my realization towards networking. I moved up within that company. In Vector Marketing, I was a sales rep for the first year, first summer, and then I moved on to be an assistant manager after the summer. And the summer after, I ran my own branch, and essentially went out for about 3-4 months in Gatineau, and was the manager. So I hired a bunch of representatives, trained them on how to sell the knives, and they went out and did that. So that was an extreme and incredible growth experience for me. Really upped my capacity, and I realized at that point how powerful personal growth was. Now, personal growth is something that I think is important to David here, and to all of you should be very important, of course, because personal growth is really the act of continuously pushing and educating yourself and learning through your entire life to better yourself as a person. And when you do that, then things around you success just starts to kind of attract itself to you. It starts to kind of happen by itself and naturally. So that being said, worked at Vector Marketing, became a sales manager. After I'd finished that branch, I came back to Ottawa for 2 summers or 2 years. Essentially, I was a sales manager in the office. And then I figured it was time to go back to school, and really wanted to to do some post-secondary. So I decided to go do business marketing at Algonquin College. And hence maybe part of the reasons that I did meet David here. We ended up going to Algonquin together, which is great. And I really enjoyed the program. At this point here, I'm finishing my last semester in the program. And in between that time, I got a chance to do some fundraising with the World Wildlife Fund, which David actually took part of. We were out in the streets canvassing, getting people to adopt polar bears. So that was a great experience. And I'd actually never done door-to-door before. It was only kind of through networks and referrals I was working with Vector. So we started doing some canvassing in the streets and actual door-to-door. And so this was an important aspect to me because to be a great sales professional and then to move into into the business world, I think it's important to have a strong foundation. And having done all the basics of sales is a very important thing. So whether it be cold calling, going door to door, canvassing, and networking, pure networking on that level, these are all important skills to have done early on, so you have this base and understand these things and move on to a higher professional self later on. So. Worked, some fundraising, and then at the end of the summer, did a bit of landscaping with my buddy. I just figured I want to go do something physical, so that was nice. But I've just, about 6-7 months ago, started working with a company called The Better Software Company that, again, David was working at with me at. So kind of funny when you look at it like that. And essentially they sell software and make software for small to medium-sized businesses. And it's operational software, basically, for small businesses that are typically service-oriented. And over there, what I'm doing is generally cold calling. And again, just refining those skills in there. Now, cold calling is something I've done before, and it's not the funnest thing to do, but I was ready to make the sacrifice because I know that doing this now, I can move up within that company, and that would be very rewarding in the long term and build a lot of value. Also, I never had startup experience, and that's something I'm looking to really harness because when I want to start my business later on, it's important to have some of that startup experience, right? So that's kind of where I'm at right now, and I'm looking to buy a house this summer here. That was my goal. That once I graduate, I can buy a house. So on the financial end of things, maybe have a few tips for you guys there as well, because hey, you gotta stack them bills, eh? So yeah, that's where I'm at, and here I am at this show here, spitting some knowledge for you all.
Okay, awesome, Thoma, awesome. Hey, there was something that caught my attention, and I'm really curious to know about the process of you being a sales rep for Vector, and then transitioning into a sales manager where you began to lead, where you began to coach, where you began to watch yourself and fall into a leadership position. What do you think was the biggest change for you throughout that process of being a sales rep, learning, starting into becoming that leader and beginning to coach and beginning to mentor and beginning to teach?
Mm-hmm. So there's that in anything you do in your life, if you do it to its full extent, you'll experience two roles. You'll start off as the student and eventually transition over to the teacher. And not to say that if you're a teacher, you're not the student, because every master has a master of his own, right? And somebody who's highly influenced them, or a mentor, so to speak. So learning in my first summer was very much how to sell the products. When I became an assistant manager, I started to realize that I was kind of coaching people on how to sell the products, just kind of showing them what I did. And then beyond that, I started realizing that I was going to conferences in Toronto and even out in Vancouver for this company and whatnot, and listening to people talk. When I was a representative and selling a lot, I was thinking of, well, what is the value of what they're saying for me to apply in terms of sales? And then when I started getting into management, I started not just listening to what they were saying, but how they were saying it. And how they were saying it had a very strong... me being very analytical had a very strong influence on me, because I realized that there's a message that you're trying to get across, but in management it's also how you get it across, how you're motivating these people, and how easy you make it seem for them to be able to go out there, make it sound achievable and whatnot, right? So that transition between student to teacher was just starting to listen to the same content, but with a different viewpoint and a different angle, where you're actually taking out the public speaking skills, right? Oh, I see what you did there. Like, saying, selling Cutco knives is easy, yes or yes. I like that one, yes or yes. It makes people chuckle and whatnot, stays 100% positive, and kind of forget about no, man. This is easy, right? So that little piece right there is an example that I started to pick up on, for example, and I really started to incorporate it into to my management style.
Okay, really, really cool, Thoma. Now, were there people that started Vector with you that did not necessarily advance as quickly as you did? And if there was, do you think that a part of the reason was because of your ability, or at least your openness to look at your mentors, look at your teachers, look at the people who were doing it, and take what they were saying and apply it into yourself? Do you think that that was a big reason why you were advancing?
Right. I mean, there's people who didn't advance as fast as I or go as far, or there's people who advance faster than I did. And tell you what, there's kind of flash in the pan sometimes. They come in, they'd sell like, $10,000 or $15,000 in their first 10 days on the job. Myself, I sold maybe like 4, maybe a little bit less than that, to be honest. But that being said, it was a consistent thing on the long term. How was I able to continue that? So obviously your ability to take information, take concepts, and then apply them is really what counts. You can learn a whole lot of stuff, but if you don't know how to apply it in a practical way, it's not worth anything really, right? So knowledge is power, but it's only power once you actually actionize or turn it into action, right? So I would say that definitely is a big factor to my success within Vector was taking all these things that I was learning and then applying them, and it's also refining that process, getting better at taking the information and applying it. And if you continuously work that and get better and better at just taking something and then applying it, all of a sudden you can, the smallest thing can be said and can have a huge influence on how you do things, and a big impact overall on your life in the long term, because you've learned and really refined that process of learning something and applying it.
I really like that. So not only take action, but refine your process in taking action so that every single time that you take action, you're doing it more effectively.
That's right.
And more efficiently.
Yeah.
I really like that. And you said a word that that caught my attention. You said consistency.
Right.
And the fact that you were not only applying the action, refining the action, but you were refining and applying that action consistently.
Right.
And you think, how important is that consistency to success?
So, I mean, I'll give you an example here. I actually won a trip to Bahamas and Jamaica, fully paid for with Vector Marketing. A very good experience. First off, the culture there was something that was, I'd say, refreshing for somebody who maybe who just worked 9-to-5 jobs and whatnot. I didn't really get the chance to do much of that beforehand, but the culture was great there, and one of the big rewards is that they like to reward their salespeople for consistency. And so these contests I won by selling $10,000 over a period of 10 weeks while I was studying a little bit. And that being said, that's just $1,000 a week. It's actually not that much. It's even kind of somewhat average for what a person should be doing, in their sales role. But that's just $1,000. That's over 10 weeks. You got to do it 10 weeks in a row. And so consistency plays a huge role, because if you want to go do something and you want to achieve it, you can. There's no failing at that, because if you're consistently putting the effort out to be able to achieve that very goal, then you're eventually going to hit it, right? Kind of like the turtle and the rabbit there. The turtle is slow but consistent, continuing to got there, and the rabbit messed around a whole lot, right? So that being said, he eventually got to that goal. Even if it seemed somewhat impossible, you get to the finish line. So consistency is really about continuously giving that effort until you reach a certain goal. And for me, if I didn't sell that $10,000 in 10 weeks, well, I'd have done it in 12, or I'd have done it in 13, but I'd eventually have done it, right? Again, consistency plays a really big role in you being able to achieve things. At the end of the day, when you stop being consistent, it's kind of like you're intermittently quitting all the time. Mm-hmm. And you've heard this before. If you don't quit, you can't fail, right? or failure is only a part of success, right? Every little failure that you have, you turn in to how do I learn from this, and then continue on that path with those efforts to achieving that goal, right? If you never quit, you're eventually going to hit that goal. I think we all can agree on that, right?
I absolutely love that. Thoma, you're bringing some amazing value here today to all the viewers that are listening, that are watching us right now. And Thoma, what's next for you? Where do you see yourself going from this point on? And what is your vision for your future?
Tell you what, every time I'm asked that question, I get fired up. And it's you should naturally you should get fired up. It's important to be totally like, like your vision is like this really hot girlfriend that you have that you just like are like crushing for so hard. Every time you think about her, you have a big smile on or whatever it is, right? So what's going on for me next? Well, the Better Software Company is I've been working there for six and a half months now, part time, so that I can eventually get on full time with them and really harness that experience and move up within them and hopefully get into to marketing. Now I'm not going to say hopefully, I will get into marketing, and once I get into that, I'll start to have marketing experience within a startup company, and that to me is crucial experience to be able to apply that to my vision later on. Where do I want to go? Well, renewable energy is definitely the area that I want to be in. And I'll tell you this why. So first off, we've all heard money makes the world go round, right? Now, I agree with that, and it's kind of an unfortunate truth at the end of the day. But because it creates a lot of greed and a lot of inequality within our world. I'm not going to go too much into that end of things, right? But money is a figurative thing. We just associate value to it, right? So it loses its value if we no longer associate value to it, right? But what is the one physical material that has the largest influence over money and power throughout our planet? Well, that would be oil. Now, oil is, and we can all agree, has a huge influence on humanity and on the impact that we have on our planet, etc. But it's not so much the actual material, but it's the function it holds for humanity and society, which is energy. Energy is that core kind of thing that when you look at all the needs, yes, we need air, we need water, we need food, and those are basic needs. But energy is that step up that allows us to have a better quality of life, that allows me to be sitting in this warm room right now while it's nice and cold outside, for example, and have all this stuff that's filming us. So energy is that strong need that humanity has, and I believe that if we just change how we source our energy, it'll have a profound impact on our influence on the planet and a profound impact on how we live our day-to-day lives. So that's kind of where I want to be going. How fast I'm going to get there, not sure. In terms of like when I would open a business in renewable energy, but that is that end goal. So what am I doing now for it? I'm volunteering at a renewable energy co-op, Ottawa Renewable Energy Co-op, actually, OREC, and making contacts within there and learning a little bit more about the energy field and how things work inside and out on a nonprofit standpoint. And those are extremely valuable connections that I know I'll be utilizing in the future. So I'm just planting the seeds right now and making that groundwork to make it easier for me later on.
Okay, well, Thoma, I have no doubt in my mind that your vision is going to manifest itself into reality with a drive like yours. There's a complete certainty of mine. Now, Thoma, what are some final tips that you can give the viewers that are watching right now?
Hey, I mean, at the end of the day, and I think about this often, but be yourself, and you know that. Know what your strengths are, know what your weaknesses are. So when I say be yourself, you got to know yourself. And you work on some of those weaknesses and you expose some of those strengths. Next thing would be consistency. As we talked about it earlier on, just continuously put effort into it and you'll get to your goal. And lastly, be smart, folks.
Okay, guys. Well, Thoma, thank you for coming on to the Young Pro Show. It's much appreciated, and I know you brought some amazing value. Thank you, viewers, for watching.
Cheers.